You're listening to the Great Canadian Aftermarket Podcast, brought to you by the publishers of Indie Garage and Jobber Nation. Connect with us online at indiegarage.ca and jobbernation.ca, a brand of chat integrated media.
Hello. Most shops have some manner of technology platform that they use to run their shops, to schedule appointments, to reach out to customers when occasion, and certainly to track the service that they've done. And there's lots of opportunities for reaching out to customers with those technologies, but many shops find that that always falls from the top of the priority list, and they just don't seem to get an opportunity to really fully explore the CRM systems that they have at hand. Now, I'm joined today by Robert Whitehurst from Epicor MechanicNet. Now, MechanicNet has one of the largest installed bases of CRM systems and management systems in the aftermarket. But we wanted to talk in general about the technology that you have in your office at the shop level, how you can use it, areas that may have been neglected at times. Good day, Robert. Glad you could join us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Now, I made a couple of kind of strident statements right there about what shops can and can't do and are and aren't doing. Is it accurate? Do they have a lot of technology that they're not actually employing to the fullest?
Yeah, most shop management systems, I say probably all of them at this point, have some level or capability of customer follow-up built into them, right? And so it's just taking the time to figure out, how to set that up and then, implement it, right? The trouble is not everybody has the time or is willing to or thinks about taking the time to set all that stuff up.
Right. Now, I know that, sometimes the interfaces are a bit different. And certainly, when we're dealing with shop owners, most have a technical background. And certainly don't shy away from technology when it comes to repair technologies. But even I find sometimes interfaces, not knowing where to look, you get kind of a little bit frustrated, and then the customer is calling or a tech wants to talk to you, and it immediately it's gone from that priority list. But in this world we're in now, where increasingly we've moved to non-contact transactions. You don't get to see your customers in your shop anymore, or not often anyway. You don't have as many opportunities to pass along that word of mouth. While there's certainly no absolute replacement for face-to-face contact, when you're not allowed that, being able to reach out to your customers is kind of the next best thing, and maybe the only option. This should raise its importance for shops, should it not?
Yeah, absolutely. There's never been a better time to take the proper amount of time to get in front of your customers and engage with them.
Now, what are the benefits? I mean, obviously, I think we can all kind of imagine a time where there's a follow up, something's automated, but really, how does that work? And what are do you have any insights into kind of the effectiveness of using some of those tools that might help shops say, hey, you know what, I really should spend the time in an evening or a few weekends to really set some things up, do it one time, and have it start to run for me?
Yeah, MechanicNet's been out there for a very long time. I've personally been, in doing customer follow up in the industry now for 15 years, and it doesn't take much. It's kind of like you get in front of you get a reminder from your dentist when you do your teeth cleaning. If I wasn't getting that, I wouldn't go twice a year, right? I'd go probably about every 3 years with a toothache, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm super happy when I get that reminder from my dentist, but I know it's important I do it. And there's a certain percentage of a shop's customers that will appreciate just getting a heads up, hey, you're due for XYZ, right? So it can, what we notice when we look at the data is, you have a large percentage of people at most shops that are visiting that shop once or twice a year. The goal is let's get that person just one more time annually. Right. Also, because we're focusing on, reminding people that they're due for these services like, OEM factory services, those tend to be very profitable, gravy jobs for most shops.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've noticed through various levels of economic shutdown through the pandemic, of course, people aren't driving their cars as often. Most drivers, unless their car reminds them, which certainly does happen, they're still kind of hooked into the, hey, X number of kilometers or miles between oil changes. It's sort of mileage based thinking. Now, even my vehicle, it's X number of kilometers or 1 year or
Yeah.
6 months for this certain service. So the vehicles themselves have transitioned to a time-based limit at some level, and yet I'm still seeing even a number of reach outs I get from service providers I've used in the past from in cities and towns I don't live in anymore. Hey, we estimate your mileage you should come in. And so there's still a little bit of that going on. So there's a need to reach out, even when people aren't, driving their vehicles with some messaging, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you can base reminders upon, mileage or time frames, and that's usually what the recommendation is from the manufacturers, right? So, absolutely. Another thing that is almost counterintuitive that a lot of the shops, watching or listening might be experiencing is, there's a lot of shops I talk to on a daily basis that they're noticing a lot of people are driving a lot more now, which is
Okay. Okay.
weird, right? You was so counterintuitive. But I don't know exactly the reason, but just through my conversations, I think it may have something to do with the fact that nobody's really willing to take an airplane at this point, right?
Okay. Okay.
So everyone's if you're going to go out, if you're going to be driving, you want to make sure your car's safe and you're not going to break down, right? So if I'm going to take a road trip, which more and more people are doing right now, I'm going to take it
Yeah.
in.
Well, that
So
makes a lot of sense. Sure,
yeah.
road trips are what people are going to be doing with their holidays and vacations for the for to a larger extent than normal. One of the aspects we also learned, and I did mention this in the last podcast, on the average mileages, and with all of the delivery going on, you have a lot of sort of casual owner operator delivery vehicles out there, and they have certainly been running at top speed, whether it's the Uber Eats type thing. We have a number of obviously services that are basically gig economy fleet drivers, and they are doing a lot more of that Uber driver that might have done an evening a week to get a little extra cash, that's now their main source of income,
Yeah.
so they are at it every day and really putting the miles on, and they need to be reminded that their service pattern has to change too, or they're going to find themselves in a situation where their earnings are going to be obviously negatively impacted. These are all kind of various strange dynamics that we're seeing out there. Now, when we were talking before we started this session, you mentioned that shops should spend some time focusing on their Google reviews.
Yeah.
And what's involved there, and what are the benefits? What's some feedback you're getting on top of that?
Well, the reality is Google is the 8,000-pound gorilla in the room. We're getting to the point to where it just can't be ignored anymore. And there's certain shops that are recognizing that, right? Well, those shops, as a consumer, if I'm looking to take my car to a shop, I'll go to Google, I type, auto repair, the geolocation of my phone kicks in, and it's going to find, the shops that are closest to me, right? Well, they all look the same to me. I don't know which place I should call, right? Well, one sort of discerning, differentiating factor that you could have yourself stand out is the amount of reviews that you have, right?
Okay.
If there's a shop that has 10 reviews, and the shop that's a block and a half away has 110 reviews, the guy with the 110 reviews is probably the guy I'm going to end up calling at least first, right? Unless that guy, when I call him, starts cussing at me, that's
Right.
probably going to be the place I end up doing business, right? So
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Now,
it,
how hard is it to get to, I mean, the term I'm trying to think of, the term schema comes to mind. Getting your shops listed, is that something that platforms can assist in, to kind of streamline?
yeah, it's not that difficult at all in this day and age. Google wants you to be on Google, right? That's in
Right.
their best interest, right? So I believe you have to sort of prove that you are the owner, meaning they have different ways to do that. They'll call you, they'll have like a robocall, call the shop, or they'll send you a postcard in the mail to that physical address. But yeah, you definitely want, if you're not, you want to make sure that you have a Google business page. Number one, you want to make sure also that you're in control of that Google business page, right? That you're actually listed on there as the owner. So you're being notified if you get a review, and that way you can go in and you can respond to it, especially if it's a negative, right? That's one thing I noticed too. People just leave, shops will leave a negative hanging out there, right?
Right.
You, at
Right.
the very least, you want to respond to that, as quickly as possible, and you want to say something to the effect of, you know, um, I'm so sorry that happened. We're I'm calling you right now. We want to make things right. And because no one expects you to be perfect, a shop to be perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. But they want to know that if you drop the ball, you're going to pick it up and run with it. Right. So,
Right. Yeah, certainly. I think most of us by now have had an experience, somewhere in our lives where if you have really wanted a response from a business or an organization because of something that has gone sideways, if you reach out, when you reach out through social media, that's when you get a rapid response. A phone call or an email, will sit in somebody's inbox or voicemail forever, but then all of a sudden somebody posts something on Facebook or on Twitter about it, and immediately you're getting a response. Clearly this is the world we live in, right?
it is what it is.
And shops who are customer facing businesses, I mean, they're not discrete business to business, it's a consumer facing business. I guess need to recognize that, and there are tools to help them manage that effectively and quickly. Is there a sense that you have of a kind of a break point between how are shops that are employing effective Google related activities
Yeah.
versus those that aren't? I mean, folks out there in the shop community, I mean, for years and years, you just spent frankly, a big significant number of dollars on your yellow page ads, right?
Yeah.
That's what you did. That was your
Yeah.
advertising. Aside from word of mouth, that was your advertising.
Mhm.
Now, I haven't seen a white pages or yellow pages in at least a decade.
Yeah.
And even for a good time before that, they went straight into the recycling.
Yeah.
These big books, right? So Google is today's yellow pages, not to mix copyrights, and justifies some attention and probably some investment at some level in it. Is it paying off? I guess is my question.
Uh, as far as is it generating people? Is it
Yeah, I
making
mean, have
phone
you been
calls?
able to see the difference in just your conversations, discussions, and your experience with shops that those shops that really embrace it and make sure that their stuff is in place, are responsive, get their proper Google pages up properly, are responsive to positive and negative reviews? What do you hear?
Shops that focus on it, they're going to notice people. Most shops, when somebody new comes in the door, they're going to say, "How'd you find out? How'd you find out? How'd you hear about us?" Right?
Yeah.
And they're going to see an uptick in the amount of people going, "We found you on Google." I mean, that's the key indicator right there, right?
Sure, sure. I mean, a lot of shops, I guess, a lot of shops, are kind of under the impression, they have their customer base, it might be even, I serviced, Joe or Jane's parents' vehicles. Now I'm servicing their vehicles. It's a small town. Everybody knows who we are.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
How wrong is that assumption?
I don't know that it's necessarily wrong. I guess what I would say to that person is, you know, what could it hurt, right? What could it hurt? How could it hurt you to get a presence out on this thing known as the internet, on this place known as Google, that
Sure.
that we're all using, that it's in our pockets. If I need something, I'm gonna pull my phone out. It used to be in the old days, if you wanted to try to drive, new business in the door, you'd send a mailer out to everybody in a mailing code, to everyone.
Right. Yeah, I know for sure.
The reality is, if I need a shop to service my vehicle at this point, I don't go stand in front of my mailbox and pray that some random shop's going to send me a postcard. That's
Right.
just not how it works. I reach in my pocket, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get that thought. We're small. Everyone knows us. We're a small town. I just don't know how it could hurt, and I think sort of future-proofing yourself is never a bad thing.
Right. Right. And I think as people are doing more road trips to travel too, there's folks that might be coming through your town from somewhere else, right? And they might have a problem, and as you say, they pull out their phone and, geez, I've got a funny noise, auto service in small town Alberta. What's here?
Yeah.
And whatever comes up is you might be pulling in and saying, you were the first one on my phone here, and you're on Main Street, and I got a funny noise, and I'm on the trip with my family, and what what do we do? How do you find us? Well, right here on my phone, right? So now one of the things that you folks have been doing is running a series of uh, uh, consultations
Yeah.
and sessions. Tell me a little bit about what's been going on there.
We just want to help shops individually, help them drive profit, right, and drive revenue in the door. And so, anybody can go to epicor.com/epic results and sign up for a profit clinic. They're totally free. And also, we're going to be focusing on just ways that shops can individually help themselves. But at Epicor MechanicNet, we have all these tools
Sure.
to help you automate it, right? So most shops just don't have the time to be thinking about this, right? And they have the best intentions in the world. It's like, okay, I need to do something simple, like if somebody spends $1,000, I want to send them a thank you note, which is great. But when the phone's ringing, or I got 3 people in line trying to give me their keys, that's the first thing that ends up on the back burner, right? Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And if you want something that's just gonna just take care of this stuff for you, that's Epicor MechanicNet.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I mean, as we've been talking about, I mean, the tools are there. MechanicNet is obviously a well accepted platform with a lot of tools. There are others out there as well, often underutilized because they take a little bit of time away, and some systems are harder to kind of get things done than others. But it does. Especially now, where the onus is really on the shops to ensure that people they don't get to see know what they do. That when you have cars and vehicles in for service, that you're reaching out and communicating with them, and certainly post service to ensure what's going on. Pre-service to advise procedures through emails, other things that can really help build confidence of the customer base in your business, right?
Yeah.
That's the key these days, is to, in the absence of the ability to meet face to face with your customers, to ensure that you can continue to provide communication that shows your value, what you do, can absolutely drive business, drive profit to the bottom line with the business that you are getting. And there are good tools out there to use if you use them. The Epic Results Program is something that shops may want to take advantage of, learn something, to think about it for a little while, just to kind of raise their awareness about what the impact of some of the tools out there are. Robert, thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate it. This is the Great Canadian Aftermarket Podcast. I hope to join you next time. Everybody, be safe, be strong. We will see you soon.
You're listening to the Great Canadian Aftermarket Podcast, brought to you by the publishers of Indie Garage and Jobber Nation. Connect with us online at indiegarage.ca and jobbernation.ca, a brand of Chat Integrated Media.